You know something is seriously wrong with your mother-in-law when none of her children have nice things to say about her. Not only that, but also her daughter-in-law describes her as a living nightmare. That is my mother-in-law for you. It wasn't just her, it was her and almost her entire friend circle. I, Stella, had the glorious opportunity to end their toxic behavior. Let me tell you how. My husband, Dmitri, and I became a couple in college. We were in the same class and bonded over the fact that we both knew Russian. While he was an actual Russian, I had simply learned it as a hobby. I am multilingual in many languages. Dmitri was extremely impressed by my skills, and we developed a good relationship pretty soon. By the end of 2 months, I knew I wanted to be with this man. Trust me, my husband is one of a kind. Soon, we began to date. When we crossed a few years and graduated, Dmitri decided to give me a little warning about his mother, Pauline. Our relationship was progressing excellently, and plans of marriage were in the air. So he decided to give me a heads up. He said, "Stella, since we have been discussing marriage, I think you need to know my family a bit. Why don't we meet up with them? It would be fun. I'm excited to finally meet them." Our dinner in Dominic and Natasha from our graduation. I don't know why your mom never came. She is like that, Stella. This is why I think I should warn you. My mom is not the best out there. It's not like she was abusive or something. It's just that she doesn't care about us. She's pretty self-obsessed and always has been. I'm afraid she will offend you. Really? How bad can it be? Maybe you are overthinking this. I'll be fine. No, Stella, you don't understand. She's not a very good person. She has been nasty towards Natasha as well. I guess she feels threatened when a woman joins her family. She's used to being the matriarch. Me and Dominic are still in contact because she depends on us, and we can't abandon our mom. Back then, I sort of didn't believe Pauline could be so bad. Dmitri did tell me a lot of stuff about his mom. However, I believed that people can't be so vile. Even Natasha and Dominic had told me about Pauline's obnoxious behavior. Things became clear to me when I finally met Pauline. At the first meeting itself, I could tell that Pauline was a vain woman. She said, "So, Stella, tell me a little bit about yourself. I have no idea why my son fancied someone who isn't Russian. My sons are disappointments to me anyway, but I was counting on Dmitri to find me a good daughter-in-law. The first one is a joke about a woman. Excuse me, why would you say that about your sons and Natasha? Because it is true. She's an infertile person. I can't believe my son hasn't divorced her yet. But then again, my sons tend to annoy me. Since you are here, I assume marriage has been talked about. We are planning to get engaged, Mom. It won't be long. So I have to put up with this stupid girl for the rest of my life. Good to know. Is this meeting done yet? I have a spa date with my friends." This woman was shocking. She met me for the first time and didn't show any respect towards me and her own family. It was ridiculous. What's even more shocking is the fact that her sons are providing for her while she goes away and spends her money. Despite this, she kept calling them disappointments. I immediately knew that having a relationship with Pauline would be a disaster. When Dmitri finally proposed to me, I did voice my concerns. I said, "Dmitri, I don't have a good feeling about Pauline. She is a vile woman. I'm sorry to say this, but your mom is the worst. How can you still have a relationship with her?" "I can't help it, Stella. She's my mom and my only parent. If I don't take care of her, she would have no one. I was hoping she would eventually change her ways." "I'm not very sure about that, Dmitri. Honestly, I don't even want to be around her. I'm worried she would be a bad presence in our lives." "Don't worry, Stella. If she tried anything with you, I won't tolerate it. I know my boundaries." I trusted his words. Dmitri did love me a lot, and I was sure he would protect me if necessary. However, after our wedding, Pauline's presence still became a huge problem. She constantly made Natasha and me work for her and fulfill her demands. Whenever Dominic and Dmitri were busy, she called us and demanded us to come and help her. She never stopped berating us whenever she saw us. It was becoming too much for us. However, Dominic and Dmitri had a hard time saying no to her. Plus, Natasha and I didn't have parents, so we went the extra mile to try and salvage a relationship. Everything changed when I discovered something even more horrible about her. You see, Pauline had a weekly lunch meeting with her friends. At first, we thought it was just old ladies spending quality time. That was until I heard their conversations one day. I had to go to her house to get some documents for Dimitri. When I knocked on her door, Pauline let me in. Her friends looked kind of uncomfortable, but didn't say anything. As I was leaving with the documents, I overheard their conversation in Russian. They said, "Why did you let Stella in, Pauline?" "Oh, don't mind her. She is a dumb girl and doesn't know Russian." "She says she does, but I know she is lying. Stella is super pretentious. You should have seen how fat she looked in a bikini on her recent trip. I swear a whale would look better. It would be a shame to be seen with her." "You really?" These girls know nothing about being decent. My daughters-in-law are the same. She dresses like a cheap woman. You know, the last time she showed me clothes, I went and threw them out. She cried for days, and it made me so happy. God, they do deserve our little punishments. You know, I taught Natasha a good lesson last time. I added almonds to her food. She is allergic to them. I lied and said I didn't know. I don't know why she survived. She can't even have kids, so what's the point of her being alive? Good for you to teach her a lesson. My daughter-in-law has been getting out of control. I'm thinking about leaking some embarrassing pictures of her. She has been body conscious recently. I bet it would teach her a lesson to stop eating so much. I wanted to starve her the last time she was here. Good idea. I should try this out with Stella. That girl needs to be starved for a day or two. I doubt that will help, though. I can see why her parents decided to escape from her. I would have died too if I had such an ugly daughter. These girls think they are better than us. It's good we punish them when necessary. They have already charmed our sons. Someone needs to keep them under control and show them their place. Yes, these were the discussions that Pauline and her friends had every day. They kept on saying even more vile things and planning evil schemes on their daughters-in-law. Hell, Pauline even made fun of me by mentioning my dead parents. It made me sick to my stomach. With my quick thinking, I took out my phone and started to record. Then I quietly left the house without them knowing. I couldn't bear to be there anymore. Honestly, their discussion made me pretty sick and furious. I felt like crying my eyes out. These people were horrible. I had no idea a group of old ladies could be so vile and cruel. The things they continued to say disgusted me. I was furious at Pauline and the other women. They had no shame in plotting and scheming against their daughters-in-law. Hell, they took great joy in the suffering of their daughters-in-law. I was furious and wanted to reveal their true faces to everyone. So I made a plan. I knew that all the sons and daughters-in-law needed to know what goes on in these meetings held by the old ladies. Since all of the men and their wives were Russian, they would easily understand what was being said. I was the only one who wasn't Russian. Keeping this in mind, I decided to host a party. I didn't inform my husband about what had happened. Instead, I simply told him that we could organize a barbecue for everyone. However, I did meet up with Natasha and had a conversation with her. I said, "Hey, Natasha, there is something I wanted to tell you. Do you know those lunch meetings that Pauline goes to every week?" "Yes, what about them?" "Were you allowed to join in?" "Technically, I wasn't. I went home to get some documents, and they let me in. I guess they thought I wouldn't understand their discussion. Pauline doesn't know that I learned Russian years back. I recorded their conversation for you. I played the recording for her. Her eyes went wide, and she immediately looked pissed. By the time the recording was done, she was ready to slap someone. I had to guess who that could be. She said, "What the hell were they thinking?" I always thought she was having a friendly get-together. She lives on our money, but has no problem talking about us. Believe me, Natasha, I cannot comprehend the freaking audacity of these women. I only recorded parts of the conversation. They kept saying much worse things. We need to tell everyone right now. This is insane and wrong. There is no way I will keep in contact with Pauline after this. No need to tell anyone right now, Natasha. I'm planning a party very soon. I want you to invite all the sons and daughters-in-law. Make sure they show up no matter what. We will give these women a taste of their own medicine. Natasha and I made plans to arrange everything. She called up multiple people while I informed the ones I knew personally. We didn't tell them about the conversations with the mother-in-law. Instead, we just requested their presence. No one knew what was waiting for them. Pauline was also invited along with her friends. She said, My, Stella, it's been a week since you came back from vacation, and you are already planning a party. I see that you are hell-bent on landing my son in debt. Me and Dmitri are splitting the costs, Pauline. Even Natasha is contributing to it. Who needs enemies when you have daughters-in-law like mine? I guess I'll see both of my sons on the street in no time. Well, who knows? One of us might end up on the street very soon. For now, we expect to see you at the party. All your friends are invited. I will inform them after you confirm. Oh, at least I'll have someone to talk to. Okay then, I will be there. With Pauline's confirmation, Dmitri and I began inviting all her friends as well. I even invited the ones who don't attend lunch meetings. Everyone needed to know what Pauline and her group were like. My invitations were all answered, and everyone did show up for the party. I had everything arranged. I was simply waiting for the perfect chance. People were mulling about and enjoying themselves. Pauline and her group were in the corner gossiping about something. I had a good guess what they were talking about, especially because they were away from the rest of the people so that no one could hear them. Once everyone arrived, I seated them on my lawn and proceeded to the microphone. Yes, I did rent all the equipment. I'm extra that way. I took the microphone and said, "Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to my barbecue party. I've taken great pains to organize this event, and I'm glad all of you made time for me. Now that everyone is here, I want to tell you the real reason why you were all called here. You guys might want to hear this very carefully. Trust me, you won't be disappointed. We all know that Pauline and her friends like to arrange some awesome lunch meetings on weekdays, but we never knew what they talked about in their meetings. Until now, that is. You see, I had a rare chance to hear what the meeting was all about, and let me tell you, all Pauline and her friends do is berate their daughters-in-law and plot against them. That's not true at all. We never make fun of our daughters-in-law. Why would you say such a thing? You don't even know Russian. How did you understand what we said? You have a habit of underestimating me, Pauline. I did tell you that I understand Russian very well. You always thought I was bluffing. Well, spoiler alert, I wasn't bluffing at all. That is impossible. You were talking about us and insulting us. You have no proof of your horrible claims. Well, I do have proof of your nasty activities, Pauline. People, I'm going to play a beautiful recording of Pauline and her group talking at their lunch meeting. You can hear it and decide for yourself. With that, I switched on my phone and played the recording on the microphone. The entire atmosphere changed in a few minutes. From having curious eyes, my guests quickly switched to being extremely mad and ready to blow up. The things that the mothers-in-law said in the recordings were awful. I lived over to Dimitri and Dominic, and both of them looked freaking mad. When the recording ended, everyone freaked out. All the sons and daughters-in-law verbally lashed out at their mothers. Even Dominic and Dimitri berated Pauline. They said, "What the hell is this, Mom? Are you freaking out of your mind? This is what you do with your friends at my house." "Dimitri, listen to me, son. This is all a trap. I had no idea Stella speaks or understands Russian. This was all a setup. Please believe me. This is one of the most ridiculous things I've heard today. Everyone knows Stella speaks Russian. You are the one who refused to believe her and mocked her for it. Stella responded by making me out to be a monster. I'm not like this, son. I was just venting to my friends. Stella has no right airing our dirty laundry like this. How dare you try to justify your behavior? You told everyone about the issues we go through. You were the one who started this. What is wrong with you? You have some nerve making fun of us, Pauline. I don't know why I even put up with you. How the hell did you think it was okay to make fun of my infertility like that? You even body shamed Stella and talked about her," Dimitri continued, his anger palpable. Pauline was busy trying to explain her side to her sons. Meanwhile, every mother-in-law was getting cornered by their sons and being berated by their daughters-in-law. It was a fiasco, but all these vile women deserved it. Dominic and Dimitri would not listen to what Pauline was saying. They said, "I'm not going to forget or forgive what you have done. We have put up with your freaking behavior long enough. I'm going to stand up for my wife and protect her. We are done with you, Mom. Don't bother showing your face again. We are disowning you as well. Hell, if I ever see you again, I'll pretend you are no one to me. Say goodbye to the monthly allowance I send you. You don't deserve my money," Dominic added. "Well, cut it, Mom. You should have thought about things before you went around bad-mouthing our wives. Like Dominic, I'm going to stop giving you money as well." "Enough is enough," Dimitri concluded. Pauline started to freak out completely. She broke down, screaming and crying while her friends were also doing the same. In the end, all of them were promptly kicked out. The rest of us discussed everything and decided to have a good time among ourselves. It was a barbecue party, after all, so we made the most of the night despite the circumstances. All the men and their wives came up to me and thanked me for informing them. They were grateful that I didn't keep this information to myself. When the party finally got over, I decided to apologize to Dimitri and Dominic. I said, "Dimitri, Dominic, I am sorry for revealing things so publicly. I wanted everyone to know at once, and confronting them individually would have messed things up. I didn't want to give them time to cook up something." "No, Stella, you don't have to apologize. We already know why you guys didn't come up to us first. To be honest, Dominic and I were in denial when you and Natasha complained about Mom. We needed this wake-up call," Dimitri responded. "Yes, this needed to be done publicly. Who knows what they would have cooked up in their next meeting," Dominic added. "Don't worry, guys. From now on, things will change. We meant what we said. Dimitri and I won't support Mom anymore. She can figure things out on her own," Dominic assured us. We talked for the rest of the night. It got so late that I asked Dominic and Natasha to stay over. The next day, Pauline showed up at our house again. She was banging on the door and hurling insults at me. I guess she thought I was alone at home since I worked from home. Imagine her surprise when two very angry-looking sons of hers opened the door. Talk about adding fuel to the fire. Yes, Pauline turned on the waterworks again while Natasha and I laughed our butts off. Pauline tried to sway her sons. However, Dominic and Dimitri simply closed the door in her face. Days passed, and Pauline did everything to try and make up with her sons. She even tried to talk to Natasha and me, asking us to help her. We laughed in her face and told her to go to hell. As the month went by, Pauline soon realized that both her sons were serious about not giving her money. She cried to everyone about losing her house because her landlord was threatening to kick her out. When she called us, we simply ignored her. She can get a job for all I care. It's been over 6 months since the incident. So far, we have news that Pauline is living with her sister in a different state. Her sister didn't want to take her in, but felt like she had no choice. However, she did tell her to find jobs if she wanted to stay. News is that she is making excuses, so I'm not sure how long her sister will put up with her. Meanwhile, her other friends have also faced serious consequences for their behavior. Some have been removed from their sons' homes, while others have gone low or have no contact. The group has broken up since everyone kept blaming each other for the fiasco. At this point, I don't even care what happens to the rest. Dimitri and I are back to having a peaceful life without finding Pauline criticizing our every move.
All right, everyone's presentations are done. Nick, the manager, said as he tried to move the discussion forward. Excuse me, I haven't. I recently found out something. Nick interrupted me and began to speak. There's apparently someone in this department who didn't graduate high school and is just a part-timer. Meetings should be for employees only. Absolutely right. His lackey, Mike, of course, agreed with Nick. I'm leaving. After leaving the meeting room, I started to shut down my computer. I noticed that an email had arrived, not in my personal inbox, but in the company's shared email. Thinking, there's no point in speaking up, no one will listen, I went home quietly. The next day, I heard a commotion from Nick's desk. He was staring at his computer screen, his face pale. Nick! Is something wrong? Mike looked at the screen with him. And he turned even paler than Nick. Why is he so angry? Knowing the reason for Mike's distress, I thought to myself, serves them right. My name is Adam. My mother passed away when I was in the 9th grade, and I was raised by my father. Well, you could hardly call it being raised. After my mother passed, my father changed. He drowned his sorrows in alcohol, and though he still went to work, he squandered our living expenses on horse racing. Because of that, I had to start working part-time as soon as I entered high school. Every month, I went to the convenience store with bills in hand that couldn't be auto-deducted from my father's account. Even though I endured it because I didn't want to be alone, I reached my limit in my 2nd year of high school and dropped out. I found a live-in job at a distant inn. Thank you for everything. The day I left home, my father, still staring at the TV, spoke. Take care. That was our last conversation. Back then, 18 wasn't the age of majority, so I needed my father's permission to work, and I couldn't hide my place of employment. Yet, my father never visited me even once. I kept working just to survive, and before I knew it, I was 42. Years of hard work paid off, and I was transferred to the headquarters. I was thrilled to be recognized by the company, as I thought I'd be working in the field until retirement due to my lack of formal education. Listen up. Our work can change the future of our employees. Don't drag us down. On my first day after the transfer, Nick, dressed in an expensive suit, spoke sternly. There was a reason for this. Our inn was located in a prominent tourist destination, known so well that everyone in the state could sing its commercial jingle. At its peak, we had 5 locations within the state. But that was long ago. Due to financial difficulties and aging facilities, only the place where I had worked for many years and the original establishment remained. I was prepared to lose my job anytime, but now there was a glimmer of hope. With the rise of social media, the tourist area where the inn was located started gaining attention again. Depending on how hard the sales department, where I was transferred, worked, we could either thrive or be forced to give up this prime location to the new hotel chains continuously popping up. For Nick, who had switched careers from another industry to strengthen our sales, this was a battle he couldn't afford to lose. I understood why he had to be strict. I will do my best. Nick sneered at my enthusiastic declaration. Did you not hear what I said? I'm sorry. I thought I was listening carefully. Out of habit from years of customer service, I apologized reflexively, though I had no idea what had offended him. Someone was watching me with a smirk. In this department, there are those who are expected to excel and those who have been shoved here because they have nowhere else to go. You are the latter. It was Mike, the section chief. He's 7 years younger, at 35. But he was called to headquarters much earlier than I was and had been moving around within the headquarters ever since. I'm not jealous, but I can't accept that he's my boss. Graduating from a prestigious university, he has an unusually high pride and caused many problems as a newbie, making things very difficult for me when I was the front desk leader. When I found out Mike was transferred to the sales department a month before me, I was disheartened. Mike is right. With just a middle school diploma, there's not much you can do. Don't even think about achieving results. As if I didn't exist, Nick remarked, "I'm thirsty." Mike eagerly ran to the coffee maker. It seems Mike is Nick's lackey. I regretted being happy about my transfer to headquarters, wishing I had stayed on site forever. Send a direct mail to every company on this list by the end of the day. Nick only assigned me tasks that even a new graduate could handle. What? There are over 1,000 companies. You want me to send to all of them by today? Yes, if you and your fellow misfits split the work, even those with nowhere else to go should finish by today. I glanced at the employees typing away expressionlessly. They were worn out from customer service, only thinking about leaving on time, or were women reassigned after having children, with zero motivation for work. Even Sam, a new graduate from the same university as Mike, who was supposed to be among the expected achievers, had no enthusiasm for the job, having joined the company wanting to do customer service. I don't care what they say, I plan to quit anytime, he said. Only Nick and Mike were highly motivated, making all the decisions between the two of them. I originally only wanted to work at the inn to survive and had no particular attachment to this job. I swallowed my words, thinking I had no right to reprimand them. About a month after the transfer, Nick told us with a frustrated look. To commemorate the 50th anniversary, we've decided to create a plan exclusive for one group per day. Originally, Mike and I were supposed to come up with it, but our president, Mr. Thompson, insists on hearing everyone's opinions. So, you all get a chance. As Nick explained, Mike began handing out prints. Make sure not to embarrass Nick. If your ideas are half-baked, you'll have to redo them. It seemed that they had printed his handwritten notes by Mr. Thompson, which included several questions and a section for free responses. It made sense why Nick had to seek our input, given that all responses had to be submitted to Mr. Thompson. We were given a week to think about it, and a meeting was scheduled to compile our ideas. My plan is to let guests enjoy both the old and modern America. Nick began the presentations. Guests would watch a master confectioner at a nearby traditional sweet shop make sweets in front of them. The welcome drink would be premium tea in a bottle. Nick's plan was certainly attractive. After his presentation, Nick called on us to present in the order we were seated. Just as I stood up for my turn. All right, everyone's presentations are done. Excuse me, I haven't. I recently found out something. Nick interrupted me. There's someone in this department who didn't graduate high school and is just a part-timer. He was likely talking about me. I joined the company as a part-timer and was made a full-time employee when I turned 20. That was 20 years ago, so Nick and Mike probably had no chance to know until recently. Meetings should be for employees only. Absolutely right. After that, Nick kept creating opportunities to solicit everyone's opinions, purposefully excluding me from speaking. The meeting unexpectedly heated up and went past the scheduled end time. A few people asked to leave, and the discussion continued with the remaining few. Still here? Normally, you'd leave in that situation. Though I had no attachment to the job initially, hearing kind words from customers made me want to make them happier. For someone like me, with nowhere to go, the inn was my home and customer service was my life. I felt pathetic about my current self. I'm leaving. I left the conference room and started shutting down my computer. I noticed an email had arrived, not in my personal inbox, but in the company's shared email. Thinking no one would listen to what I had to say anyway, I quietly went home. The next day, while preparing the DM as instructed, I heard a commotion from Nick's desk. In his haste to stand up, he hit his knee on the desk. He stared at his computer screen, his face pale. Nick! What's wrong? Mike, thinking he should be the first to rush over, approached Nick while still wearing his coat. He peered at the screen with Nick. And he turned even paler than Nick. Why is he so angry? Who is responsible for this company? Nick, more irritated than ever, asked, and Mike answered without checking. Probably Sam. Sam wasn't there because he was attending a morning training session for new hires. Nick gave up on getting angry and returned his gaze to the screen. They were looking at an email that arrived right after the end of the working day yesterday. Apparently, no one, including me, had checked it before leaving. The email was from a large company that used us for their annual employee trips. The president and executives of that company also frequently used our services personally. President of the company, Mr. Mason himself, had declared that neither he nor his company would ever use our services again. Well, some companies cancel their employee trips or stop using our services due to financial struggles. Let's just move on. Mike kept wiping the sweat from his forehead with a handkerchief. Knowing why Mike was so agitated, I quietly watched their interaction. Do you know how much revenue we get from that company? We can find other guests to fill the rooms, but we'll lose the banquet costs, gift shop revenue, rental car fees, and more. Moreover, the gifts were supposed to be prepared by the traditional confectionery shop involved in Nick's proposed plan. If it's known that we incurred such a huge loss at this critical time, Nick's position in the company would be jeopardized. Nick took a deep breath, seemingly trying to calm himself. All right, Mike. Go to New York right now and apologize to Mr. Mason. What? You're coming with me, right? I have urgent work to do. I trust you, which is why I'm entrusting this to you. Please. Mike, believing Nick's sincerity, agreed with a determined look on his face, saying, yes. That's Nick for you. Even if Mike went to apologize, Nick would shift all the blame onto him if the client didn't change their mind. Well, it was Mike's fault to begin with, so it served him right. About 3 hours later, Sam answered a call from somewhere and repeatedly apologized, saying, I'm very sorry. Everyone watched to see what was happening. After ending the call, he informed Nick with a weary tone. When Mike arrived at the client's company, he only made things worse, further infuriating Mr. Mason. He was demanding, get his boss here immediately. It was no wonder Sam was exhausted, dealing with such a call right after returning from training. What is that idiot doing? All right, Adam, you're coming with me. If sacrificing Mike didn't work, then I must be next. Normally, I'd want to refuse at all costs, but I saw an opportunity in this situation. If I can be of assistance, I'd be happy to join you. I immediately followed Nick, and we flew to New York. When we introduced ourselves at the reception, it became clear how serious the situation was. As the receptionist personally escorted us to the president's office. Angry voices leaked through the door, making both Nick and me uneasy. Excuse me. I'm Nick, the supervisor. I understand my subordinate has caused you trouble, and I deeply apologize. Nick, with his experience in the corporate world, knew enough to offer an apology before excuses. However, his customer service skills left much to be desired. I sighed as I saw Mike trembling like a small dog in the corner of the room. What kind of training are you giving your subordinates? Mr. Mason glared at Nick with a red face. The intensity of his gaze made even Nick take a step back. Regrettably, I joined this company only 2 years ago and was unaware of Mike's issues. I should have identified his shortcomings sooner. Indeed. I should have realized sooner. No sensible person would come to apologize and then give a lengthy presentation on the drawbacks of not using their in. Nick froze, his mouth slightly open. Suspecting the worst, I picked up the documents that had fallen to the floor. It seemed Mike hastily prepared these documents on the plane, listing the disadvantages. Disadvantage 1, if you change the venue for the company trip, employees might suspect it's for cost-cutting reasons, leading to a negative impression. Reading it aloud half-jokingly, Nick snatched the papers from my hand and checked the contents with a furious expression. Among the stack of documents was a receipt from a nearby convenience store's copy machine. I felt a pang of dread, hoping he hadn't shown the receipt as well. What do you think he said when I asked what kind of nerve he had to do this? I'm very sorry. Faced with the dire situation, Nick must have thought there was nothing left to do but apologize. In a voice smaller than I'd ever heard from him, he uttered words of apology. He said, "I'm a Harvard graduate. I don't believe I said anything wrong. Mike, what have you done?" Forgetting his plan to pin the blame on Mike, Nick yelled loudly, even in front of Mr. Mason. "I didn't do anything wrong." "You're still saying that? Look at him." Mike pointed at me with a shaking hand. "I was assigned to headquarters in my 20s and now I'm a section chief. This guy only made it to headquarters at 42. Everything I've done proves I was right. So why are we losing the contract?" Having said his piece, Mike collapsed to the floor. "Of course. You were sent there because you had nowhere else to go." Mike never expected to hear such words from someone he looked down upon. He lunged at me, and Nick hurriedly stepped in to stop him. "Mr. Thompson told me Mike is a quick thinker, and to take good care of him." There's no way he was pushed aside. "Don't make things worse here." "He didn't say quick thinker, he said only quick-witted, didn't he?" I don't remember that part." I recalled the many troubles Mike caused when he was a newbie. When Mike was on the front line, his pride was so high that he never apologized to customers. Customer service, especially in our job, doesn't work alone. It brings both good and bad situations. If the front staff or housekeepers made mistakes, or the cleaning company didn't properly clean a room, one had to apologize to the customers regardless of personal fault. Mike, in such situations, would never apologize, insisting he wasn't at fault. This often angered customers, and as the front desk leader, I frequently had to apologize on his behalf. He caused complaints and disrupted operations, which is why he was quickly moved to headquarters. In departments where he didn't interact directly with customers, his quick thinking was beneficial and things went well. But it seemed his flaws were starting to show. Corporate reservations are supposed to be entered into the system by the sales representative. But a quick check yesterday revealed that more than 10 items were missing from the client's reservation. The handover document clearly stated what needed to be prepared. Why didn't you enter it into the system? Why do we have to give them special treatment? Filling rooms near the banquet hall, setting up all the food in advance. Specifying the brand of wine, they're too demanding. No wonder he always angered customers, I thought, feeling a headache coming on. Grouping them in rooms near the banquet hall is for our benefit too. It makes it easier for the staff to set up beds and serve breakfast since everyone's schedule is synchronized. As for the other requests, Mr. Mason suggested them to lighten our load. I didn't know that. Nick finally seemed to realize that Mike was the one who had angered the client. What did you say to them? I just told them we wouldn't give them special treatment anymore. We shouldn't waste effort on things that don't bring in money. I was utterly exasperated at his lack of understanding of customer service. Of course, we shouldn't comply with unreasonable demands. But carrying over successful practices from past stays makes customers feel remembered and enhances their experience. Good memories encourage repeat visits. That's part of our job. I looked down at Mike, who was sitting on the floor. In our job, nothing is a waste. Mr. Thompson likely moved you to the sales department, hoping you'd finally understand this. How do you think he feels now that you failed to meet his expectations? Mike, tears in his eyes, fled the president's office. I was amazed he still hadn't apologized. You have it tough, Adam. It's okay, we're all employees of the same company. I deeply apologize for this disrespectful incident. Especially after all the care you've shown us. If it weren't for you, Adam, I really would have stopped staying here. When I heard you were moving to the sales department, I was willing to reconsider if you handled it. Seeing us talk so amicably, Nick's face contorted. Do you two know each other? Adam's service is excellent. I always requested him specifically. Normally, we don't accept specific staff requests, but we made an exception for Mr. Mason, adjusting my shifts accordingly. He had personally stayed at our hotel just before my transfer, and during casual conversation, I mentioned, I'm moving to the sales department soon. If I hadn't told him then, things could have been much worse. Please continue to take care of us. I look forward to it. On the return flight, Nick awkwardly offered me a can of beer. It's still working hours. Of course, I had no intention of forgiving him for a single beer. Nick might try to pin everything on Mike and avoid any consequences. While pondering this, a startling fact came to light. Nick, the tea bottles for the plan have arrived. I handed Nick a bottle labeled with our inn's name. They look good. What are you talking about? These are plastic bottles. I had assumed we would use the trendy, high-end bottling tea. But what arrived were ordinary plastic bottles of tea with customized labels. The only unique aspect was the label, which had the inn's name, making it look customized. Upon further investigation, I discovered that a substantial amount of money was set to be paid to the tea company. It was priced like bottling tea. Does this plastic bottle really cost $100 each? The tea inside is specially blended for us. The extra cost is for that. Wouldn't it be better to use another tea company? Or is there a specific reason we must use this one? As Nick continued to make excuses, I showed him a printed email. I informed the tea company's president, Mr. Mitchell, that we discovered irregular payments and he confessed. He said you two were high school classmates and planned to split the extra money. That idiot. Why did he confess? That's not important. You should worry about yourself, this could turn into a police matter. Opening the bottle cap, I suggested. How about calming down with this tea? It supposedly has a relaxing effect. Nick drank the tea frantically. In the following days, decisions were made about their fates. Mike was reassigned to the General Affairs Department, with no chance of transfer or promotion, as per Mr. Thompson's orders. As for Nick, since the payment to the tea company hadn't yet been made, he narrowly avoided legal trouble. Instead, he was encouraged to leave the company, and to avoid further complications, Nick submitted his resignation. Rumor has it that connections between HR departments have made it difficult for him to find new employment. Even though it was good to have those two gone, something unexpected happened in the sales department. Everyone became motivated and united in refining the 50th anniversary plan. In the end, my plan was adopted. We collaborated with the Tourist Information Center to provide personalized guides. The plan, tailored to the number of guests, was truly special for the 50th anniversary. Hey, is Adam's family coming to stay? I immediately booked that special plan for my family. Sam noticed it on the reservation list and quickly picked up on it. Yes, I'm inviting my father. That's great. I might invite my parents too. I lacked the courage to face my father just as Adam. But here, with the confidence Mr. Mason praised, I felt ready. The 50th anniversary plan was a perfect opportunity to reconnect with my father. I hoped to bring back the days when we could laugh together as we once did.